Hello, everyone. Welcome to EECS2030. I believe most of you today might be from Section E, and maybe some of you from Section B. Anyway, so for both sections, welcome you. And for those of you who might have taken 1022 with me in the winter, yeah, welcome to you again. For those of you who are new, again, welcome. It's always nice to have new students in my class. Okay, so today we are not going to cover anything related to the course materials, but rather I would like to clarify any questions you might have regarding how we are going to run the course, namely the syllabus and also any policy that you might have doubts about. Okay, so as I said, I will try to monitor the chat as often as possible, but I would say while I'm still talking, the best way to have your question answered right away in a timely fashion is really by interrupting me. So don't worry about interrupting me while I'm talking. I don't mind. All right, that might be the easiest way. Otherwise, you may have to wait for maybe 10 minutes before I can get back to your question on the chat. All right. Okay, let me start with, I do have some presentation slides here to show some information. I also want to go over the syllabus almost line by line together with you. So I want to make sure everything is clear after today's session, okay? Okay, so let me start with the slides about your instructor, me. So how do you call me? In the email or in the Zoom session? So I would say Jackie is the most preferred way I would like to be called by my students. But if you want to call me Professor Jackie, Professor Wang, as long as you maintain courtesy, I will be happy. All right. And I would like to emphasize this very often. Whenever you need any advice on the course, maybe you're feeling that your foundation about OOP may not be so strong from the first year, or maybe while we're going through certain concept in the course later, if you really feel struggle, I think you really want to get in touch with me at the earliest convenience. Don't really get in touch with me when it's too late, okay? And throughout the semester, if you've got any suggestion about how I should improve or add something to my teaching to help your learning, please do suggest. You don't need to say it in public. You can just send me an email. I'll be happy to take advice. And for those of you who might be joining but you have not enrolled yet in the course, I do know that there are waiting lists for both sections, and also there might be some other people who cannot get into the course. I think at the moment I don't have any power of registering any students in my course. I simply don't have that power. So I would say that the best I can do is to give you access to the class Moodle, I mean the eClass. So to do that, please send me your name, your student number, and also your passport, your ID, so I can give you access to the eClass. Okay. And having said that, I would for the fairness for everybody, so I would say for everyone who actually got access to the eClass, you should really keep up with the lectures and also tutorials, all the study materials, and make sure you any deadlines for the labs or for the programming test or for the written test, you also got to keep up with them. There'll be no extension granted, because I want to ensure everybody will be having the same deadline. All right. Oh, guys, one more thing to mention. Okay, so yesterday my voice, a student told me that my voice was kind of lagging, maybe because my network connection. So far, it seems to be okay. But I would say as soon as you find that my voice might be lagging, or maybe my connection was cut off, please just say it out. So I need to know that. All right. But so far, it seems to be okay. Okay, what about writing an email to me? Since the course is going to be run online, and I do have a course forum, which will be moderated by myself. So I think there are many, and also we got scheduled lab for TAs to answer your questions. And also I got my office hour, but email might be sometimes the best, fastest way to actually, for me to respond to your question. So I would say email, when you write me an email, so think of me like you're a friend to help you learning. So formality is unnecessary, but I would expect some courtesy. So just give you an example. This will be an email that's rather rude. I really don't think that would be something you want to write to me with. But if you can be, the tone can be much nicer, that'll be much more appreciated. Okay, I wouldn't read out the email to you, but you can take a look. For example, I see that Ahmed, your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Sir, yeah, I just wanted to take a screenshot of the slide where you said if you want to enroll.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Ahmed, you know what? I want to make your life easier. So what you can do is, if you go to my homepage, right, www.eecs.yorku.ca, tell the Jackie, right, go there first, go under lectures, and then you will see under 2021 and then fall, you will get 2030 over here, and then you will see the slides I'm presenting right now is over here, slides on administrative issues. So you don't need to take a screenshot, just a PDF is there for you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. So guys, by the way, as I said, just interrupt me by turning on your mic, because if you raise your hand by Zoom, I mean, I know you're being very polite, but I may not be able to see that in time, right? Just interrupt me, all right? Okay, so that's about writing me email. I will try to reply to you as soon as I can if I'm besides my computer. So that's the best I can try. Okay. Okay, about course information. So there are 2 sites you really want to check on a regular basis, at least on a daily basis, I would say. Sometimes you may have to check maybe a few times throughout the day. Okay, so there are 2 sites. The number one is the eClass site. I believe maybe most of you have already seen that, since I have been sending a Moodle announcement to you using the eClass. So if you click on that, okay, let me just open that. Okay, if you click on that, it's going to open up this particular page. Okay, let me just go there directly, but you can click on the link. That will work equally. Today we are lucky because yesterday when I was presenting this to section B, the eClass was down. So you guys can see that today. Okay. On the eClass page, you got course syllabus over here. You can take a look. It was there was a slight update earlier this morning, which I made some small change, but I'll go over that with you. Don't worry. And according to York, the grading scheme only has to be finalized on September 22nd. It's like at the end of the 2nd week. So I would say the syllabus at the moment is still preliminary, meaning that I might still introduce some changes until this date. But if there's any change ever, I will definitely let you know explicitly. Okay. And we also got a course announcement. And then, so these 2 are only announcement for section specific detail, but you don't need to worry. They're hidden from you anyway. And we also got a course forum. I just opened that. I just activated earlier this morning. If there's any question you have regarding the course, specifically, if you have any question regarding the labs, the lectures, or the tutorials, please, you can post a question here as well. If you just want some written response, or you can send me an email instead. But if you post question, I give you answer there. I think you can benefit your fellow student as well. I will be moderating the forum myself, so you can definitely get the most authoritative answer. However, I would say these are the rules I would really hope that everybody can obey. So please do not ask any questions related to grading. If you got any concern about how your lab or quizzes are being graded, you can get in touch with me directly. Okay, you will get fast response. Number 2, you do not want to share any fragment of code that you develop for your lab. It will be considered as violating the academic honesty policy. Okay. Number 3, if you got any complaints or any suggestion that you want to speak out, I would say the forum is not the best place to go forward, right? So you instead, you just want to reach out to me by email, and then I'll give you proper response. If there's anything I hear from you that can be applicable to the entire 2 sections, I will definitely take actions. But forum is not a place to complain. All right. Okay. Anyway, for forum, you can start using it today. Anytime you got any questions related to your lab, if you need some general guidance, feel free. I will actually give you some appropriate tips if necessary. Okay. Also, we got study materials. So here I got a links to the lectures page. If you click on that, it will be a link over here. So that's the lectures page. I'll get to this page in a moment. Okay. So let me just go back. Okay, and then we got 2 links for the Zoom session. I also included these 2 Zoom links on my lectures page, just in case the eClass goes down before the Q&A session, so you can always find the correct links. So my lecture site, EECS2030, this one is of public domain, so you don't need any login to get in there. So I think also the departmental website for EECS, it's rather stable. I don't think they will crash. Okay. Okay, and then the most important information you will find on the eClass will be about the lab assignments instructions. I have already posted Lab 0 Part 1 instruction. Lab 0 Part 1 officially is supposed to be started from yesterday, day 1 of the semester, right? So you should really get started if you haven't. And there will be more topics adding added to the eClass over here, namely the written test and also the programming test, right? So, but you'll come later, okay? But I would say the main reason you will go to the eClass is just as what I just described, okay? I'll give you some enumeration as well in a moment, okay? That's about eClass. All right, I do see another raised hand over here. Okay, is it Fares? Go ahead.
Hello. I'm just wondering, the labs and the written tests, are they gonna be online or in school?
The short question is the labs and also the written test and also programming test. Every assessment will be online. Since I think this course officially is still going to be a remote delivery for the course. I think we do have many students who might be not in Canada. So there's no in-person component for this course. But I'll give you more details as I go over the syllabus.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. All right. Okay, that's the eClass site, and then you'll get syllabus announcements, course forum, and lab exercises is only for instruction. When you submit your labs, you don't submit your labs using eClass. For those of you who have already seen the instruction for Lab 0 Part 1, you have to click on the link for web submit. And through that interface, you're going to browse to the project file you're supposed to submit, and then submit from there. Okay, you can see the lab instruction. It's very clear over there. And we got programming tests. I'll give you more detail in a moment. And for both, for programming tests, both the submission and also instruction will be done through eClass. And similarly, for written tests, I'll also go over the details with you in a moment. And also, we got some comprehensive exam at the end of the semester. And the exam date is going to be scheduled by the registrar office. Typically, they will only let us know about when it will be, maybe about November or late October, the earliest. As soon as I know about it, I'll let you know. Okay, so you want to, I think the exam period is between December 9th and December 23rd, I believe, something like that. So I think from the university official statement, students should not try to make any travel plan in that period. So if the exam is scheduled that clashes with your travel plan, usually there should be no excuse. Okay, I just want to mention that to you. Okay. Okay, you want to check your emails regularly. I might just send you some maybe study materials, some supplementary materials, or maybe just let you know there's some announcement. All right. Okay, what about study materials? All the recordings, either for lectures or tutorial or Q&A, all the recordings, all the slides, all the notes will not be posted on the eClass. They will be posted on this page over here. Okay, so if I go there, if you click on that, you will see this page over here, right? 2030, right? Earlier in the summer, I tried to get in touch. Maybe some of you, maybe most of you have received my message. I do have some background study section over here. It's kind of optional. If you do find that you need to recall any information from the first year, so you can feel free to make use of them. If you got any doubts about some part of them, you can always get in touch with me. I'll be happy to answer. Okay. And the most valuable resource, again, optional for you to recall first year OOP is this particular tutorial, which I also mentioned many times in different occasions. So if you click on that, so this is the weekly breakdown of the tutorial video I created for EECS2022. It's more like the CS counterpart for EECS1021 or for 1720, okay, depending on which one you're taking. So this one contains basically the complete tutorial to teach you how to do Java programming, both procedural and also object-oriented from scratch. So if there's any part you would like to recall, you might just be able to find some video over here for you to watch. It's not required, but it's highly recommended if you feel that you need to review the foundation. Specifically, I think for week number 1 might be particularly useful for those of you who did not use Eclipse ever. So I heard that maybe James actually show you guys how to use IntelliJ in EECS2030. Maybe if you took it with him in the past winter. But in this course, we're using a different IDE with a similar idea. So the adaptation to Eclipse should not be too bad. But I would say we're going to use Eclipse. You cannot use any other IDE to actually develop your project and make submission. You might run into some issue for the grading. And for those of you who might want to have some very quick crash course about how to use the Eclipse and also how to use debugger. Debugger is really something I will emphasize throughout the course. It's really your best friend as a software developer. When the TA is not around you, when the instructor is not around you, nobody can help you. In that case, you want to be able to use debugger to really execute your program in the slow motion and see exactly where the issue is. So that's something I'll highly recommend to you to review if you haven't done, if you feel the need. Okay. Let me go back here, and that's about the background study. Okay, and you can see for this week, we are mainly just doing some course syllabus Q&A. You will see all the recording, all the resources over here. Okay, you can check. I already got a recording from yesterday. Basically the same syllabus. They were just some minor updates. But for today, today's recording, if you want to refer to it, you can click on this. Maybe later tonight, I'll make it available. Okay, and for your week number 1 and 2, rather than doing some lectures, right? I will assign you to some review tutorial videos, which I just started creating a few days before the semester began. So it's fresh tutorial videos. It's specifically created for this course. So what I decided to do is I want everybody to really brought to the same speed about the OOP foundation, which I assume that you learned from the first year. So starting from the 3rd week, I really hope that everybody, after finishing the tutorials, which got 2 parts, okay? If you click on the tutorial videos over here, you'll see part 1 is already there. Part 1 is actually what you're supposed to do for Lab 0 part 1. And next Wednesday, I'm going to release part 2. So that will be the tutorial videos you're required to watch for Lab 0 part 2, right? So these are the 2 main things you want to complete for the first 2 weeks. And then you will also see 2 written notes over here, okay? And this one here is called Inferring Classes and Methods from JUnit Tests. If you click on that, it's a PDF. So this document is very crucial because it suggests the formats about your programming test. I'll send you some detailed guidance and maybe some practice tests when your test days are closer. But this document is required for you to study, especially it will be also talked about in the review tutorial part 2 next week, right? So when you actually are not so busy with other courses or other assignments, my advice would be go over this document this week, right? And then the second written notes is actually here, okay? And then so we got declaring and manipulating multi-value reference type attributes. So this is some programming pattern I want you to also review. We'll also need that for later programming test. So that one simply tells you how to build things from scratch using a primitive array in Java. Okay, that's something I also rely on you to review. And if you got any questions about these, if you got any questions related to either also the slides, if you click on the slides, if you go to the slides, you'll see classes and objects. So that's the review slides which I kept cross-referencing to in the tutorial videos. So you can also take a look. Okay, that's also required for study, I should say. Okay, if you got any question related to any of the study materials I have mentioned, so there is a link over here for you to post questions on the Google Doc. If you click on that, it's a Google Doc for you to post questions in different sections. Okay, and starting from next Wednesday and Thursday, I will actually hold an optional Q&A session to answer your questions. What I typically do is I will go over the Google Doc question first, and then I will see if there's any follow-up question you might have when you attend the section. All right, that's something I want you to pay attention to. All right, so that's about the study materials, at least for this week and next week. You want to focus on the tutorial videos that I created for the review purpose, and then also read carefully the lab manual for Lab 0 Part 1. Okay, that's about the study materials, and then also you can find the course syllabus in the same site as well. Okay, I'm just about to go over the course syllabus, but before that, do you guys have any questions related to what I just said? Any questions?
Hello, Professor?
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to fully confirm because I remember getting a conflicting email from York saying on September 13th onward, all classes will be in person. So I just wanted to verify. I know you said this before, but
No
really
problem.
sure.
Yeah, no problem.
It's
So
online, right?
I understand your question. Yeah. So the question was, are we going to hold any in-person classes after September, starting from September 13th? The answer is no. I think the email you received actually meant the following way. For those courses initially planned for in-person activities, they will start the in-person activities from Monday, September 13th. But for 2030, all the sections, initially when it was first planned, is only for remote delivery. So whatever in-person activity you might have heard about, it does not apply to us. So there will be no in-person show up required.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm
No
sorry
problem.
I made you reiterate it, but thank you.
No problem. But guys, I believe my understanding is if for those of you who may want to make use of some resources on campus, maybe library, or maybe you want to make use of the prison lab, I don't know, whatever reason you may want to drop by the campus, of course you have received the email from the university saying that you have to upload your vaccination status unless you got some exemption reason. Anyway, so that's the part I'll leave to the undergraduate office by general mention. But for this course, for any assessment item that we need, like a lab, programming test, written test, or exam, excuse me, everything is going to be done online. There's no physical attendance necessary. Okay, guys, any more questions before I go on to the syllabus, please? Anyone?
Hello, Professor.
Hi. Go ahead, please.
I just have a question about the submission of Lab Zero,
Okay.
because I didn't really see you mention it, so maybe you could
sure, no problem.
Go over it again, please.
I can go over that again, absolutely. Yeah. So for all your labs, for all the labs in this semester, we got Lab 0, Part 1, Part 2, and also we got 5 other labs. We got 7 labs in total throughout the semester. All of them are going to require the same mechanism for submit. I'll give you one example. So you can find the instruction for Lab 0 Part 1. I posted there just in case eClass crashed down again. So you can either go to the instruction here or on the eClass, either way. Let me just click on here. If you go to your Lab 0 Part 1 submission, so guys, please be patient. You got to read the instruction. Make sure you don't miss any policy. If you violate it, you will be responsible for any consequence. Please just read the instruction, okay? Okay, regarding your question specifically about submission, let me show to you. If you go all the way to the last section about submission, of course, you got to make sure you got all the files. And then you can see you got this link over here. So this is the link you want to press. If you click on that, okay, for me, I already logged in the earlier session, so they didn't really prompt me for any EECS login. But for those of you who may not have any EECS login account, you are required to actually activate your account. You can see the Lab 0 Part 1 instruction in the earlier section. I talk about how you can activate it. And once you get here, just make sure the academic year, term, course, and assignment are actually correct. It may be for Lab 0 Part 1, maybe for Lab 5, depends. And then what you will do is you're going to click on the browse and browse to the file you want to submit, and then you will say submit. After submitting the file, you will see some download link for you to check to see if the file you submitted is really the one you want to submit and get graded. Okay, it will be acceptable to submit for as many times as you like before the deadline. Only the last submitted version will be graded. Okay, so does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
No problem. Good. All right, guys. If no more questions about what I have said so far, let's now go over the syllabus. I think if you got some other doubts, I think most of them can be resolved after I go over the syllabus. Okay. Okay, so let me now go. So where can you see the syllabus, by the way? If you are already in this lectures page, you can please click on this course syllabus PDF over here. Okay, if you actually downloaded one version from yesterday, you may want to re-download one because I just updated it earlier this morning. So that's the latest version with some minor changes. Okay. Alternatively, you can also go to eClass and it's on the top of the link. Okay, let me now go over this syllabus here together with you. Okay, so let me now go over syllabus here. Okay, so whatever I'm going to say now is going to be applicable for both section B and section E. Okay, and that's now the first section here is about the course policy. Okay, it's quite a long page over here. I'll just mention the key points, but I do expect you to actually read the course policy before you attempt the lab or any test or even the exam. Okay, let me just mention very quickly. So the main concern is about academic honesty. Okay, so every lab and also every test, including programming tests and also written tests, it is assumed is solely your own work. So no collaboration is required. Specifically, the TAs and also myself, we will actually examine all the submitted code for every student, for every lab, for every test, to make sure that there's no pair of submissions whose similarity is actually beyond reasonable level. So you want to make sure you don't really share any code or share any concrete ideas about your lab solution. I do see a raised hand, but just please give me one moment. Let me finish this page and then I'll let you ask the question. Okay, but I think just keep in mind that we really want to be fair for everybody who's being honest about their attempt to the assignment or the test. So that's why we're doing plagiarism check for every test. For those of you, you can ask around. For those of you who took a 1022 with me or any other course with me, you will know that I'm serious about this kind of check. So please just focus on your learning, and whenever you find any trouble of completing the assignments, I'll be always happy to help you. Okay, but don't take the other route, which is not legitimate. Okay. About submission time, their deadlines are pretty stringent. So whatever time I mentioned in the syllabus, it will be the Eastern Toronto time, right? In case you are now in Toronto, you don't need to worry about any conversion. But for example, if you're in Asia or maybe in Europe and in other places, in that case, you actually have to do the conversion yourself, right? But all the time is going to be specified in the Eastern Toronto time, okay? And then if there's any issue with your internet, you are expected to take some proactive steps to actually resolve it, which means if you got any trouble of resolving the issue, you should really get in touch with me as early as possible. Either I myself can help you, or I need to refer you to maybe the tech team to help you with the internet. But it's really important you try to do something first. Don't just come to me after the test and say that you got some internet issue that you cannot resolve for a long time. That would not be an acceptable excuse. Okay, and then similar, so there'll be no teamwork for all the assessment this week. The lab are supposed to be done individually. All the tests, programming and also written will be done individually. Also exam will be done individually, okay? And about late enrollments over here, for those of you who have not been officially registered, it will be your responsibility to send me the information, as I mentioned in the slides, within week 1, so I can give you access to the eClass. But other than that, there'll be no extension for any labs or tests. All right. Okay, I do see one question from Rama. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Professor.
Hi.
I have a question about the lab session each week. So is that mandatory to attend, or can we complete labs on our own time?
No problem. The question was, are the scheduled lab sessions mandatory or required? The short answer is they are optional. They are not required, but I'll give you more details as I go through the syllabus. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Let me know. Yeah, question, go ahead.
Yeah, so so for plagiarism, what is considered plagiarism on codes if you're just like...
Yeah, okay, plagiarism on code. I can give you some rough idea. Okay, of course, I can tell you that whenever we do plagiarism, we don't simply just do some automatic check. Me and the TA, we're experienced programmers, will look at any suspicious submission and see if it's obvious that the two students simply just copy and paste. Or maybe the students simply just share the code with each other. Or maybe the key steps for solving the problem is very unique, but somehow the two students happen to have the same way of solving the same problem. I'm just giving you some example, right? So I would say for any cases I have reported so far, there was not any false alarm so far. So every time if I report any student for plagiarism, I double check with the TA and also check it by myself to see that's really worth prosecuting them. So I would say as long as you did your own work, I would say, well, we know that programming is a very creative process. Even for simple problems, like what you solved in the maybe in the first year, is very, very unlikely for two students who work independently without any collaboration to result in the same piece of code or two pieces of code who are very similar. Okay, that's kind of the general idea.
But usually when you're trying to do a certain task, wouldn't the code be pretty similar? Like there's a certain way of writing.
So so there are maybe certain parts that might be similar, we agree, in which case we'll bypass those parts, but there will be other parts where it's not possible to be similar in terms of indentation, in terms of variable name, in terms of spaces, in terms of comments, etc. Right? As I said, I would say as long as you just keep doing your honest work, if there's really any concern we have, me and the TA will judge very carefully before we report.
Okay, I got you.
Okay,
thank you.
Yeah, but I would say on the chat, I mean, maybe someone mentioned about 50% of the people about over 50 people got accused last year. Yeah, that's rather true. I think we got about 300 plus students in 1022, and about 50 students actually got accused for cheating, and I think almost all of them actually admitted. So I think the process is quite rigorous. So we don't want to catch any students to cause their stress, but I think everybody should just do their honest work. I'm pretty sure you will. I'm pretty sure the majority of you guys will. And I'm just trying to communicate with those people who might want to cut corners sometimes. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. Okay, let me give it. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yes.
I have just as a way to avoid that, would it be a good idea to always be commenting the code with our own explanations? Would that help?
That might help, yes. So let me give you some idea, since you're talking about how you can avoid being caught, right? Let me just give you some idea. But of course, if you're trying to document your code you don't need to document for every step. Maybe for the key steps of your code, if you write some comments about what that really means, that might also help. Yes, that might help. Let me give you a little bit more idea. Okay, I do have some written documents over here. It may not be the complete checklist, but at least they'll give you some idea, right? I do have good faith about all my students. I believe the majority of them are just honest. So I would say don't panic too much that you're doing your honest work but just get caught and just get penalized for no reason. No, York wouldn't allow me to do that anyway. For every student who got caught, we need to supply evidence. Also, we need to have exploratory meetings with the Sasan faculty. And also, we might just need to go to the full hearing with the university level before a final penalty can be confirmed, right? So I would say you don't need to worry about being innocent, but you actually got caught and penalized. You don't need to worry about that, okay?
All right, thank you very much.
No problem. Okay, let me just give you a little bit more idea over here. Okay, individually, and then what should you avoid? That's something I can kind of suggest. You want to avoid discussing code level details. For example, if your classmates are asking you, oh, how should I implement this method? You don't want to tell them, oh, you know what, you should really do some loop with the exit condition like this, and then you want to do maybe another nested condition, and then you want to do some if statement, you want to do some assignment over here. You don't want to discuss that kind of detail. That can easily have your colleagues actually writing result in some code that's very similar to yours with almost the same steps, right? And also, you don't want to discuss any concrete steps about your code. And also, definitely don't want to share any parts of your code. I can see that you guys got a very good intention to have some private channel to discuss, like a Discord channel. It's absolutely acceptable. It's absolutely fine. It is okay to have some private channel with your fellow student to discuss maybe some study tips. That's okay. But to really protect yourself, under no circumstances should you ever show screenshots or share the screen about how you implemented a particular method for classes for your lab. You're protecting yourself, really. Okay, don't do it. Okay. And also, how can you really help your fellow student? I'm very well aware of any peer maybe peer help or maybe some peer pressure, because if your good friends are asking you for help, you got to give them some response, right? This is how I would suggest, and this is what I did when I was an undergraduate student many years ago. Okay, the best way to help your fellow students are you can clarify the instructions with them. Maybe they simply don't understand exactly what the problem is going to be solved. And also you want to show them how to use the breakpoints and debuggers. So that's also something, that's why I'm emphasizing breakpoints and debuggers so much in all my courses. So that's the best way for you to help your fellow students. I also give the same guidance to the TAs. I told the TA, if a student coming to your session with lots of struggle, the best way is to really try to work with them by clarifying instructions and also try to help them how to use breakpoints and debugger. But we are not there to give out solution to you. That's not to your benefits. That's not what we're gonna do. Okay. Okay, so for written tests and programming tests, pretty much what I said, just said. I'm not going to waste any more of your time. You can read the section over here just to know that any assessment that we have for this course, even though it's online, but it should not have any collaboration. Okay. Another thing I want to mention, maybe you got that doubts as well. Can we Google? All right, for solution, right? Let's say, in case you're trying to solve some lab problem, which you're not too sure how to solve it, or even more seriously, let's say during the lab test, you're not too sure how to solve this particular test question. You might just intend to maybe do some search on the web. Okay, I can tell you the principle. Okay, if you simply just copy and paste, it is strictly forbidden. I can tell you why. If you can Google, your fellow student can Google as well. Very likely, you might just Google into the same source of code. If you both are copying and pasting the same code fragment, your code will end up to be the same. In that case, it will be considered plagiarism. Okay, what you can do is you can Google, but the only thing you want is to get an idea about how to solve a problem. And then maybe try to write it in a way you understand. So analogy is like this. For those of you who might have taken some maybe English essay classes, right? So what's happening is if you're trying to quote somebody's passage, if you quote it directly without any source, in that case, it definitely will be considered as plagiarism. But if you try to rephrase it in a way that's actually not so much similar to its before, and also cite a reference, that'll be okay. But in this case, I think you definitely cannot do copy and paste. That's for sure. Strictly forbidden. Okay. Hey guys, do you have any questions about what I have said so far? Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just have a question regarding the what is considered like copying. So
okay.
Let's say in your code you're doing something like bubble sort, right?
Okay.
And that code is like, it is universally the same. So if we're using that in our code, it's going to be the same for, or like very close for everyone. So how can we?
So I understand what your question is. So the question was, what if you are supposed to solve a problem that's so universally well-defined? So everybody's solution will just be similar. For example, bubble sort or maybe merge sort or quick sort. The short answer is, I typically wouldn't give you a problem that's directly standard, meaning that I do expect some openness to how you solve the problems for that particular question. So, but again, maybe if that's, let's say if there's really a bubble sort subroutine or like a helper method you have to declare for your lab, in that case, me and the team, we might decide to maybe bypass all the instances for that particular implementation. But for the rest of your lab, they should not be similar beyond reasonable, right? So as I said, what I'm trying to say is we will judge about how reasonable it is between a similarity.
Thank you.
Good. All right, guys. Any more questions regarding what I have said so far? All right. If no, let me now go on to the next part. Okay. My office hour will be 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Or if these time don't work for you for any reason, please, I'm happy to set appointments with you. Just get in touch with me by email. Okay. And for today, which is Thursday, I do have the office hour. If you want to go to my office, virtual office, you can simply just go to the lectures page over here, and then you can see on the top, I included the Zoom links. So that the top one will be the office hour. And then I'll speak about the 2 Q&A sessions on Wednesday and Thursday. You can attend any, both, or none of them. It's completely your call, your judgment. In that case, you can also click on the link to join the corresponding Zoom session. Okay. Okay, I will speak a little bit more about the Q&A session. Just bear with me. My office hour and also the eClass site, I spoke about it, and also study materials, I also spoke about it. We don't really have any required textbook, but I do have some optional reference textbook if you really prefer to do some reading, which I really encourage. But if you really want, this is one possible textbook you can purchase and read. Okay, it's kind of up to you. We can go to the library to check it out. Okay, but to really study for this course, the lecture recordings, the slides, or any supplementary notes I made available to you, or tutorial videos, they should be enough for you to do well in this course. They should be. Okay. If you really find that you need some supplementary materials beyond what I have supplied to you, in that case, please get in touch with me. I can maybe do some make some specific suggestion for you. All right. What about getting help for this course? So there are many means for you to actually get help on your laboratory exercises, on the test. I mean, before the, well, not during the test, of course. I mean, to actually help you prepare for the test and also to prepare for the exam. Let me enumerate them. We got the course forum, okay? And also we got my office hour, also including appointments. If you need some extra attention from me, just let me know. And also we got the scheduled lab session. Okay, that's something I want, just bear with me. I'll just get there in just a moment. I want to show you the weekly schedule. All the scheduled lab session you can also attend. You can also see the TA, and also the weekly Q&A session held by the instructor. So let me now talk about the weekly schedule quickly, okay? And then before I talk about other things. Yeah, this page on the syllabus, okay? Here. I think according to your original schedule, this time over here is for section B. When, Monday, Wednesday from 11:30 to 1. And also this time over here is for section E. Tuesday, Thursday from 1 to 2:30, right? So the way it's going to work for this course is like this, okay? We cancel the class times for Monday and Tuesday because we're going to release pre-recorded lectures to you so you can study at your own pace. So Monday and Tuesday, there are no longer any scheduled session for your class time, no longer, okay? What's going to happen is I turn the class time for both section B and section E on Wednesday and Thursday into the optional Q&A section, okay? It's going to be completely optional, okay? So you can, let's say you're from section E, you can definitely drop by the session over here if you got any questions. You're also more than welcome to attend the earlier session on Wednesday as well, depending on which one works for you, okay? That's about the Q&A for the lecture. And for your lab session, okay, I try to really give you the most benefits, you know, in terms of the flexibility for time. Between the section B and section E, we actually got 5 different time intervals throughout the week. We got this time slot, this one, this one, this one, and this one over here. Number one, they are not required for attendance. No grading is going to be done during the lab session, number one. Number two, they are all virtual, meaning that they're all going to be done over Zoom. Number three, they will be held by the TA. So if you want to speak to any TA to maybe talk about your lab assignment, to get some hints, maybe get some guidance, you can also drop by. You can, let's say, for example, if you're registered, let's say for this particular lab session on Monday, you can choose to attend it, you can choose to miss it. There will be no consequence in terms of grading. And also you can attend any or all of the other ones throughout the week, depending on how many questions you might have, and also how many assistants you might need from the TA. Okay, so you can see the precise time over here for the Q&A, and also the precise time suggested on the timetable. However, I do want to give you one caveat, some suggestion. Okay, let me go over that. So for both kinds of Q&A session, either it is for the Q&A help by myself for answering your question related to lectures, or any of the lab session over here held by the TA. Okay, it is completely your decision on attending one, more, or none. It's completely your call, right? I cannot really force you to go to any one of them. However, I would not advise that you skip all of them. It can definitely save you some time in the week by skipping all of these, right? You might just decide, I'm not going to show up for any of these. However, I would say only do that when you are absolutely confident about the course materials, in which case it really means you don't need any extra help. But if you really need the extra help, don't really delay that until shortly before the test. That's not the way to go, right? Any question about the lecture? I mean the Q&A over here and also the lab. Any question? I can clarify right away.
Yeah. Will all the Q&A sessions be recorded?
Oh, okay, good question here. So the question was, what about recording? These two will be recorded because they will be held by myself. On the other hand, the other ones, it will be mainly one-on-one with the TA. So I think for privacy reason, we may not record them. Does it make sense to you? Okay, good.
Yeah,
okay, good, very good. Okay, guys, any more questions about the schedule labs and also the Q&A? Any more questions? All right, good. Let me go back to where I was, and then let me continue. Yeah, for the prerequisite, I'm pretty sure all of you have satisfied. Otherwise, you would have been enrolled by our vice chair in the beginning of the semester. So that one should be okay. And for the course description, I wouldn't talk about it now. It wouldn't make so much sense since we haven't covered any one of them. So I will keep reminding you throughout the semester about where we are, where we have gone, and where we will be. That's something I will typically do. So you don't need to worry about the course description. But I do want to talk briefly about the CLOs, the course learning outcomes, which is quite a good resource for us to kind of know if we really have done proper job, for your learning for this course. Let me go over very quickly. The first two, implement the application programming interface or API, and also test the implementation. So this will be the focus for the very first 2 weeks. Okay. So what we are basically talking about really is like, the API that you learned from the first year is basically about methods, method headers, like whether that should be a constructor, whether it should be an accessor returning something, or it should be a mutator returning void, right? It's about method headers, like a documentation. Okay, so that's an API, and then you want to have some implementation. Okay, so the way we have a precise documentation for your method is using JUnit test cases. For those of you who actually took 1022 with me, I'm sure you have seen many JUnit examples already. If you haven't seen any JUnit test cases before, that's okay. I kind of show you from scratch in the review series for the first 2 weeks. So please make sure you spend enough time understanding exactly what's going on with the JUnit test cases and get back to me if you got any question as soon as possible. Okay, and then what you're going to do is, based on the JUnit test cases, you're going to infer the implementation. And implementation will be what classes do you need? And also what methods do you need? And including also what attribute you should really declare. So that's why this document, let me emphasize again, this document on my site over here, about inferring classes and methods from JUnit tests. This document is so important for that purpose, okay? All right, after that, we also talk about aggregation and composition, and that's more like an extension to what we discussed in the first year, something called aliasing. All right, for those of you who might have forgotten about what aliasing really is from the first year, you may want to recall that maybe from your lecture notes from the first year, but I'm gonna review that in part 2 of the lab 0 next week anyway, okay? The most important learning outcome I would like to achieve for this course is about inheritance. So this is indeed the more advanced OOP concept that I want to spend. After the reading week, I'll spend at least 3 weeks talking about inheritance. I'll give you the complete picture about inheritance, starting from using the extend keyword, using the super keyword, all the way up to polymorphism, dynamic bindings, static type versus dynamic type, typecasting, and also generics. So we need to learn all the items for those few weeks. And we'll also talk about recursion, and I'm hoping that I can cover some some contents about linked lists. So these 2 topics will be very good preparation for a subsequent core programming course in your second year, which is EECS 2011. Okay, so that's the course for the fundamentals of data structures. And I think, of course, 2030 is a prerequisite for that. So I think maybe many of you will actually take it in the winter. And by the way, I will be teaching that course in the winter for some sections, right? So you might see me again. Anyway. Okay, and then for the remaining 2 learning outcomes, if time permitted, I'll try to address them. Otherwise, I think if we can cover from CLO1 to CLO7, that should be enough for you to take away for this course. Okay, let me go on about the grading scheme. How are we going to grade you for this course? Okay, so there will be about 15%, 1.5 related to your lab exercises. So for your lab 0 part 1 and also part 2, part 1 is to be done by the end, is to be done in the first week, and part 2 is to be done in the second week. Okay, and they will be 1.25% each. So in total, we got 2.5%. Okay, and make sure when you are going over the tutorial, review tutorial, the names for the classes and methods and packages must be exact. Okay, otherwise you will run into trouble when we grade your submission automatically. Okay, and also we got another 5 labs. Typically, you will be given at least 10 days for each lab, right? There will be some stringent deadline for submission using the web submit, but I'll go over that in a moment. Okay, and there will be 2.5% each. It's I think it's maybe the same percentage as I did for 1022, so there's some consistency there. Okay, in total, we'll be 12.5%. In total, we got 15, right? That's about the laboratory exercises. And for the programming test, we got 3 of them throughout the semester. We got 1, 2, and 3. For the very first one, maybe for some of you, you are not really used to maybe taking a programming test with some time limits. So I want to make it slightly lighter, right? For the first one. And then for the subsequent 2, it will be 10% each. So that's why you got 27%. So far it's about the programming, and finally about the theory about the written test. Written test will be from written. We got 3 of them, 6% each, mostly multiple choice, mostly. If there's any question that will require some written responses, I will let you know when I give you the preparation guide. Written responses possible, but it will be you will be the minority of the percentage. Okay. Okay, I can see some of you are requesting the transcription to be enabled. Okay, do I just say enable? I guess. Does it help when I enable that? Okay, seems like there's a transcription. Okay, sure. Okay, and then besides the so we got 3 written tests, 6% each, and also we got the exam. An exam will be comprehensive, in the sense that it's going to cover the materials from day 1 until the last day, everything in the course. It's really the opportunity for you to synthesize about everything you have learned in this course. So hopefully you'll get ready for the subsequent 2011, for example. Okay, and that will be 40%. In total, we got 58%. If you do the math, 100% for the course. Okay. Yeah, Mohammed, no problem. So I think maybe for the Q&A later, if you attend, if I forgot to enable, just request. Just feel free. Okay, I didn't know you can actually request it. Okay, good. So guys, any questions related to the grading scheme? Anything? What will the exam be like? Exam will be more like a written test. You might be required to implement some maybe methods or classes, but not in the sense that you will be like a programming test. So I think you can think about exam. It's more like a digital version of what you will write typically on paper, right? So it's not really like a programming. So exam is more like a written test. Any more questions? How long are the programming tests? Okay, I can tell you that verbally, but I'll also go over what's on the syllabus. For your written test, it will be about 20 minutes each. For your programming test, it will be 90 minutes, 1.5 hours. Exactly when the programming test or the written test will take place, I'll explain that to you when I get to the calendar. Okay. All right, so one with the next section here, but guys, if you got any question again, raise your hand, chat, or interrupt. What about, is there any advantage or disadvantage when you enroll in section B or section E? No, absolutely not. It doesn't really matter which section you are enrolled in. It's going to be taught by the same person, who's me. And then, however, if you, let's say, hopefully not, but if you, for whatever reason, you might decide to switch to maybe section A or section C, let's say later in the semester, okay? In that case, you got to watch out because section A and section C, even though it's the same course, but the way the topics are being covered in terms of the sequence, maybe in terms of the depth, and also in terms of the assessment, it will be quite different, right? So I would say if you really have to transfer to the other section, you may want to double check with the instructor whether they might be able to accommodate, right? I just want to give you some heads up.
Excuse me, I had a question, Professor.
Go ahead.
So I have two questions for the GitHub repo, which is optional, of course. Should we make it private or public?
Oh yes, okay, yeah. For let me just let me answer that explicitly. Okay. Oh, sorry, that's my calendar. Let me do it again. The question was, should we? What about the GitHub? Okay. So I forgot the exact task number. Maybe it's 1.2 or 1.1. I forgot. Okay. So GitHub. Okay. Number one, optional. Meaning that you wouldn't lose any marks if you didn't choose to do it. Absolutely fine. However, but highly recommended. Because it's a very sound software engineering practice for you to do to back up your work rather than Google Drive or actually email, because you can actually have some track history or log history of your changes. Okay. And number two, if you decide to actually store your lab work into GitHub, you have to be very careful because you can easily run into plagiarism, even though it's unintentional, but you will still be penalized. Okay, let me tell you why. If you actually make all your GitHub repository as public and you store your lab work over there, so that means your colleagues, they might be Googling randomly and they found your solution on the public repository and they might just take it verbatim. In that case, you guys will be caught for plagiarism, even though you may not have the intent to do so, but you will also need to be held responsible. Okay, so what I would say is it need to be private. It should be private repository. Only accessible by you. But after you have finished this course, if you actually want to make the repository public so you can put it on your resume, it's okay. But only after the course is officially done. Hi, does it answer your question?
Yes, it does. And another quick one was, would you have any template for, I know there is a file called that git ignore that ignores all the heavy files that might be like on your local machine.
Okay.
Is there like something like that that you would have or recommend, like which file we would remove from
eClass or maybe metadata? Yeah. So the question was, do I have any template for ignoring certain files which you don't want to really check into GitHub? I don't really have a complicated template myself. I think when you actually go to the the later video in the GitHub tutorial series, I did talk about how you can filter out certain files there. I might have mentioned some, but I would say this might be something you can easily Google for the solution. This one will be okay. Yeah.
Okay,
So you
thank you
can.
very much.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so AJ was saying that in 1022, I didn't drop any test. So you're assuming that it is the same. Yes, it is the same. I wouldn't drop any tests. So please, I want to make sure we you want to take it you take it seriously for all the assessments since the beginning. So I wouldn't drop anything. Okay, just to let you know. Yeah. So can the privacy of the repository be changed to only the ones with the link? You know, for GitHub, it might be there might be some option like that. Oh, you know what? I think in GitHub, I think you can make your repository private, but you can at the same time invite some collaborators. Whoever is added as your collaborator, they can see your project, but not anyone else. But in this case, you don't want to invite anybody to see your repository, right? Because you might be caught. Okay, just are we going to do OOP with languages other than Java? No, we're only going to do that in Java. Only Java, nothing else. Okay, regarding the programming test duration, okay, I'll talk about it in a moment. Okay, I know what you're asking. Yes. So will all the labs and tests be similar in style with 1022? Yeah, so yes. Okay, but guys, you know, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't give the reason that I'm trying to do the 2 weeks of the tutorial video for the review in the first 2 weeks is because I don't want my students coming from 1022 to have any excessive advantage just because they are familiar with my style. So that's why I want to give you everything that I assume you should really know. So you can take your time and study them in the first 2 weeks. So starting from week number 3, all the labs and also all the foundation, I will assume, will be based on what I cover in the first 2 weeks. So if you didn't get a chance to study with me in 1022, that's not a problem at all. Okay, I want to clarify that. Okay, so please don't think that I'm trying to give advantage to my student in 1022. It's absolutely not the case. Okay. So okay, good. And also the labs will be similar style, yes, but that's something I will also explain later. Okay, another question regarding the programming test. Okay, anyway, so I'll get there in a moment. Okay, what about the expected weekly workload? That's also something I think it might be good to communicate right in day 1. Okay, I noticed that we are now already about 2:05, right? We should really finish by 2:30. I noticed that. Okay, I'll try to speed up a little bit, but we are getting to the very end soon. According to Lassonde, every credits should require about 3 to 4.5 hours of work every week. Is according to Lassonde. I didn't make this up. So for this course with 3 credits on for an average students, we can expect about 9 to 13.5 hours of work required for everything, including lectures. So this is my suggestion. What's really fixed is about 3 hours of the lectures every week. Of course, for the first 2 weeks, you got the review tutorials instead. But starting from week number 3, you will be assigned to the lecture videos about 3 hours to watch. That's about 3 hours. And then the remaining 6 to 10.5 hours for average students, you will be about to complete your lab assignments and also study for the lectures and also study for the tests. Of course, if you also choose maybe to attend a Q&A session held by myself, you will also count. Maybe 1.5 if you want to attend 1, or maybe 3 hours if you want to attend 2. Maybe 0 if you decide to attend none. It's completely up to you. All right. But I would say if you really spend way more time than what's really recommended for average students, don't feel bad because this is really a foundational course. So all the hard work you actually put today or this semester, I think that will pay off for a later semester. Okay. Okay, just about how your letter grades will be calculated, it will be very standard. Okay, I wouldn't waste too much time on that. But briefly speaking, it will be a weighted sum for all the grading components. And then eventually, once we get a row marks out of 100, we will actually map that into letter grades. For example, if you got 90% or higher, you got A+. If you got 80% or higher, then you got A, and etc. Okay, it's simply standard. Okay. And then about a semester calendar, let me talk about it. That's also very important. Okay, let me just go to the calendar over here. For you to actually, you can either look at the one on the syllabus. There's another way you can get to a clearer version if you wish. If you go back to the 2030 website, and then you can see that over here, right? So on the top, you can see the weekly schedule and also semester calendar. If you click on that, so that's a calendar. Okay. Now let me go over that quickly. Okay, the calendar. So in total we got 12 weeks for the semester. Okay, so now we are currently in week number 1, and we got also up to week 12. And after 5 weeks, we got a reading week. And the final one is simply the one including the exam period and also the study day, right? Okay, so how do you understand this calendar? I'll try to be as thorough as possible. Let's see this. First of all, about the recorded lecture. Okay, so for the first 2 weeks, we only got Lab 0 Part 1. Lab 0 Part 1 over here released on Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we got Lab 0 Part 2. Starting from the 3rd week, your recorded lecture will be released in principle every Monday. In principle, if I can release them earlier, I will definitely do that. But Monday, the latest. Okay. And after a particular lecture is released, you got more than 1 week, slightly more than 1 week to actually prepare for the corresponding Q&A if you are interested in attending. For example, let's say on week number 3, on September 20th, I will be releasing week number 3 lecture. And you got, including this day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and also the weekend, and then 1, 2, right? About 10 days before the next Wednesday and Thursday, where we had have the Q&A held by myself, right? So you got at least 1 week to finish the tutorial videos at your own pace, and then to get prepared for the question. So that's about the lectures and the Q&A. What about lab? Okay, for the lab, let me see this. So you can see the due dates for the lab. For Lab 0 Part 1, it will be next Friday. And for Lab 0 Part 2, it will be the Friday after. Okay, and then all the due dates for lab will be Friday. Okay, and can you see the due date for Lab 1, due date for Lab 2, and etc. Okay, the exact time about lab about the lab due date, lab deadline, I will mention that in the syllabus. I'll go over that, but I don't want to give you the big picture. And so here alongside, it's just telling you for that particular week what you will be working on for the lab. So except for lab number 1, in which case it will be released on a Wednesday and due on a Friday. You're given still about more than 10 days to actually do lab 1. Otherwise, all the other 4 labs, lab number 2, lab number 3, 4, and 5, you will be given 2 weeks to do it. Okay, so that's why the submission time for the lab will be stringent, because you're given more than enough time to actually do it. Okay, that's about the labs. And also now for the programming test and the written test. Okay, I try to make it consistent in a way that you wouldn't get confused, I hope. Okay, for both written tests and also programming tests, they will take place in a 24-hour period between the corresponding Thursday and Friday. For example, you can see your written test number 1 will take place on Thursday, between Thursday, September 30th, and Friday, October 1st. And to be more precise, it will be from, let me get to the syllabus right up, and then you will see the exact time where the submission will be open and the submission will be closed. But just remember, it's going to be a 24 hours period. In that 24 hours period, you need to find some slot to actually do the test. Let me leave that detail a little bit later for the syllabus. Okay. Any question about the semester calendar?
Professor?
Yes, please.
Hi. So for the written test, basically it's going to take place on, like, for the first one on September 30th, and you have 24 hours to do it.
Okay, yeah. So you have 24 hours to. Okay, you know what? Let me hold that answer. I will show you exactly what I meant. Sure, please hold on that question. I know how to answer that. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, let me speak about that point. Exactly how you do the test. Let me talk about it. Okay. So that's only the calendar. Let me just go back to my syllabus over here. And then you can see on the syllabus, you would say for the precise time, you will need to look at other sections, section 15 and section 16. Let me go to section 15, okay, to clarify your concern, okay? First of all, for the lab, they will typically be released by the 5 p.m. On the Friday. That is more like a deadline for myself. So I'll try to make sure I give you the lab instruction by 5 p.m., but usually it can be earlier, usually, okay? And the due dates on the corresponding lab, on the corresponding Friday where the lab is due, it must be 2 p.m. EST, 2 p.m. As I said, except for lab number 1, where you're given 10 days, all the other labs you're given 2 weeks. In that case, you want to make sure you actually submit by this stringent deadline. Once I close the submission, there will be no like a partial marks for late submission. Okay, so please respect the deadline. And that's about the lab submission. And what about the programming test and written test? Let me go over in writing, and then I'll illustrate that to you visually. Okay, so I want to make it absolutely clear. So for both sections, okay, so each programming test and each written test will be done in a very similar way. The only difference is the duration for the actual test is a little bit different. Okay, for both of them, it will be open for submission at 2 p.m. on the corresponding Thursday, and it will be closed for submission at the 2 p.m. on the following Friday. During that 24-hour period, what you should do is you should go to eClass and do a single attempt. You can only attempt the test for once, only once. As soon as you tell eClass that you want to start with the attempt, you got 90 minutes to submit your answer. That's for programming test. For written test, done in exactly the same way, except that you need the single attempt will last for 20 minutes. Okay, let me illustrate that visually, and then to see that might be crystal clear. Let me just take, let's say, a programming test, for example. Each programming test is going to something like this, like more like a 24 hours period, starting from the 2 p.m. on some Thursday until the 2 p.m. on the following Friday, right? You got a 24-hour period. And then in this period, you got to find a window that works the best for you of 90 minutes. As soon as you start the attempt, eClass will time you to say that you must actually submit your answer before the 90 minutes timer runs out. So that means you really, really have to watch out for the timer, because once you miss a submission, we cannot grade you. Okay, but I will give you a practice test before the actual test so you can practice about the submission process. So for that part, you don't need to worry. Okay, so the implication is you can think about it's more like a window, right? You can slide the window. You can want to start with a 2 p.m. right away, or you can start maybe about 12:30 p.m. on Friday. And as soon as we get to the 2 p.m. Final deadline for submission, you are done with the test, right? Hopefully you see the idea. And you do the same. Attempt for the written test, except that it's 20 minutes only. So does that answer your question about the time for the test?
Yes, thank you, Professor.
No problem. All right. Okay, so here is something about in 1022, written tests were an hour. I don't think so. I think for written tests in 1022, it may be about 20 minutes or so, maybe or 25. I don't think that's 1 hour. So how many questions you will be there? I would say for 20 minutes, I think maybe about, okay, 30, sure. I think maybe 20 to 30, but I think I would say 20 for now. If I want to adjust it to be longer or shorter, I'll definitely let you know. I'll be very precise when I give you the preparation guide for the written test. But you can think about on average, maybe, depending on the question. Sometimes one question can take you more than 2 minutes. Sometimes one question can take you more about 30 seconds, right? So I would say the number of questions itself does not mean anything. Okay. All right. Guys, any questions so far?
Sorry, another question. For the written test, right? Are you able to like go back and forth in between questions? Because for some courses, they make you only go one direction.
Yeah, good. I do hear that my colleagues actually chose something called sequential for Moodle, but I know students hate that a lot, right? So I can yeah. So for the written test and also for the exam, let me just speak for the written test first. For exam, I don't want to commit to anything just yet. Just for the written tests. Okay. So if you got this many questions over here, let's say you got 5, just for example. Let's say I want to skip this question for now, and I will take this question. I want to skip that. I want to take it. You can still go back to take this question later. So it's not sequential. You can navigate in whatever order you like.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. Well, in some, I can tell you that from the instructor's point of view, it would be nice to make it sequential, right? You make it more challenging, but I think that's okay. Yeah, for written test, we don't need to do that. Okay. All right, guys, any more questions? Yeah, I do see this someone suggesting that the programming test should be lasting for 24 hours. I would say, yeah, that might be what the other instructor decide to do, but I would say I do insist that your programming test should be timed for certain minutes. I think for some, imagine some real world scenario. Let's say you're a software developer, you're called on duty for some bug fixes. I don't think sometimes your supervisor will give you like a day to actually fix that urgent error. Instead, they might expect you to fix it within 1 hour or even shorter, depending on the nature of the problem. So my point is having some time constraint and maybe with some unavoidable stress to actually do the test, that might be actually the way to actually push you to the next level for your programming. That's my view. Okay. Okay, so let's now go on to the remaining part. I'm almost done. I wouldn't run over time unless you got more questions. Otherwise, I know you got other things to do. Okay, finally, about the weekly lecture topics. It's about tentative. So I think I'm still recording the lectures fresh this year. So I would say if there's any change on the lecture topics, you don't need to worry. I will adjust the assessment accordingly. Okay. All right, that's good. Guys, any question about syllabus?
I have a question about the programming test.
Yes.
Are they going to be marked by like the computer? Or
okay, good question. Are the programming tests going to be marked by computer? I will give you the exact marking scheme maybe later when I give the preparation guide. It will be marked by a computer, like a grading script. It will be. And the way we're going to grade your code is we don't really look into how you implement your code. Well, unless we check for plagiarism. Okay, let's take it out from our context. So for every submission, number one, we check to see if that will compile. Let me talk about it very quickly. Okay. So about your programming test grading. So number one, we check to see whether that will compile. If it doesn't compile, we will take some penalty from there. I haven't decided how much it will be, but you're in the second year, so the penalty will be heavier than what you will receive in the first year. But I will confirm that when I give you the preparation guide for the test. And then once there's a compile, and then we'll give you a series JUnit test cases. Some of them were given to you during the test. Some of them will be some additional ones, which will test maybe for some other scenarios. And then eventually what your grade will be based on how the percentage of the test cases you passed for the tests. So we are really testing for how correct your code is. Only by manually examining your code by eyes and believe that it's working is not the way to go. The most objective evidence is by showing how many JUnit test cases you can actually pass. Of course, if your code doesn't compile, then we need to take some penalty before the TA can do anything else, in which case the TA would have to manually grade your submission. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, good. Guys, any more question about the syllabus? If no, I will take only just a few minutes to go over the remaining of the slides, okay, to get it done. And then I'll be willing to take as many questions as you like afterwards, okay? But at least I want to control my part within the 90 minutes frame, okay? Let me go back to the syllabus, the slides. For those of you who might need accommodation for the test time or exam time, I will need you to send me an email explicitly and attach the university issue letter so I can work from there, okay? For those of you who need it, send me a private message, all right, by email. All right, very quickly about adapting yourself to the second year, and I guess most of you actually were from 1021. So the guys, the way you did it, for example, is by fidget board. You program your Java code and then connect it to your computer, some fidget board, and then you try to see the visual effects, right? LED lights, or maybe some other hardware stuff. It's fun. It's actually a very good way to engage you and see the programming effects of your Java programs. And you may have done some testing to some extent. Maybe you have seen some console tester, in which case you have a main method for your class, and then you are trying to use system.out.println line and see what the console outputs are. I actually show you that in the tutorial, review tutorial. Okay, and except for those of you who actually took 1022 with me, you may have seen some JUnit test cases before. And indeed, this way requires some abstract thinking because you don't see any explicit outputs to the console or to the physical device. What you're relying on is on some assertions, which will check the expected value and the actual return value from the method and check to see if they actually match. If they don't match, you're going to get a red bar in the JUnit test cases, right? That's what you have seen before, but you'll see that a lot in the review tutorial series. That's basically more or less what you have done, but we want to say that just relying on visualization or printing out to the console is not what a real software developer should be expected to work, okay? Instead, what you should do is you should really get the problems. They're explained in the API format, which means I will tell you what the headers for the method should be, what name should it be, and what should be its return value, and what should be its parameters for the inputs, and what should be its return value based on the calculation. And these will be specified using some use cases. And the most precise way to specify the use cases will be by JUnit testing. If you simply want to use console application or try to use some tablets or fidget board, it relies on manual inspection, which is very inefficient. It doesn't scale to a larger application. So we're going to get a set of test cases for rerunning all the test cases. It's called regression testing. Okay, that's something I'll also cover maybe a little later in the subsequent weeks. Yeah, so really thinking abstractly about your program logic without seeing changes visually is really the way to go before you graduate, but hopefully after you graduate from this course. And you can refer to this link. It's about how people do interviews, code interviews with Google. They didn't quite ask you to program in front of a computer at this stage. What they ask you to do is they give you a problem, tell you how, as an example, how it works. You got to program on the whiteboard. Okay, so that's really that really requires your abstract thinking skill. Okay, you can check out the video and get some idea. So this course really is about solving problems. Of course, we're gonna use Java specifically. And what you learn from the first year is about the procedural programming basics, step by step, using variable assignments, if conditional loops, nested loops, etc. You don't want to lose them. You got to keep them. They will be the foundation for this course. And then we're going to add in some new bits about object orientation, specifically about architecture, meaning that if you got so many classes and methods and attributes, how do you organize them in a way that will actually be maintainable? Meaning that if you want to introduce any further future extension to it, it'll be much easier to do than otherwise. So that's something we call architecture. Specifically, we'll show you how you can do this by inheritance. So that'll be the focus after the reading week. And all the solution will be expressed in Java. But I do believe once you master the concept in this course, if you the skills and concept will be transferable to any other language which supports object orientation. Okay, quickly some study tips. You want to really plan your study gradually. the best advice I can give to you is, if I know especially I appreciate you guys are from the engineering program. I know you're very, very busy. However, try not to watch all the 3 hours of video in a single day or in a single 3-hour interval. I would suggest not. I try to restrict all my videos, individual ones, to be between 20 to 25 minutes. So maybe watch between 2 to 3 videos per day. That might be the best way for you to study. Okay. And for the Q&A, I would suggest at least attend at least one. Okay, unless you're really confident about what you're learning, that's okay. I'll be very happy if you really don't need a Q&A, but I will doubt in practice if that'll be possible. Okay. Okay, ask questions whenever you can. Okay, and also take some notes while you're watching the lectures and tutorials, and then they will be very useful when you actually review for the written test or exam. Okay, one more tip. I do see some questions accumulating in the chat. I will read them. I'll get to them. Just give me one more slides. Some general tips about studying. For those of you who studied 1022 with me, you have seen these slides already, but I want to just mention that once more for everybody. To do well, inspiration is more important than perspiration. Perspiration simply means sweat. You know, when you exercise, you sweat. So that really is more like a symbolic analogy for hard work. So to really succeed, hard work is necessary, but may not be sufficient, right? It's a cliche, but I want to emphasize. So inspiration is like an aha moment for you. To really reach that level of true understanding of the course material, you have to spend enough hard work to really get there, right? So that's the general guidance I can give to you. But how do you reach that like an inspiration moment? So you don't want to be too satisfied just by doing the groundwork, like what you're assigned to do, okay? So you definitely want to master them. That's only the minimum requirements. But you want to also stay on top about how things work together and how things are connected together, and why things work the way they do or they don't. And some of you actually mentioned about LeetCode on the chat. So CodingBet is one good site for implementing methods, especially for recursion. And also LeetCode, you can also, if you want to subscribe to it, I'm not forcing you to do that. I'm just saying myself, I'm subscribed to it. You can see many interview problems, including those for software design, right? It's just go beyond what you're assigned to do. Just be curious about why things work and don't work. And always reflect about if you really understand what's going on. Tell yourself a story. If you really struggle with reflecting the stuff, you can always get in touch with me. I'll try to help you. All right, that's about it. Let me now handle some questions on the chat. I can take more questions from you. Okay, I know it's getting to the end. All right. Want to make sure that, yeah, for this week, you only have to finish up to lab 0 part 1. That's correct. Next Wednesday, I will release part 2 next week. Okay. Are we going to discuss hash code? According to my plan, I might only be able to cover hash code if time permitted. Okay, we may not be able to get there. But for hash code, I think for your 2011, it might be repeated again. Okay, so I guess most likely not for the hash code for this course. All right, guys, any more question related to any aspect about the course before I let you go and you can do the work for this week? Any questions? I will pause maybe a little bit longer in case you're getting ready to ask your questions. But I believe I cover everything that's on the chat as well. In case I missed your question, please just type it again or simply just, raise them up. So I would say 2011 requires 2030 to be passed first. So I would say whatever foundation you learn in 2030, they will be useful in 2011. I can give you a little bit more details later. Yeah. Are the labs for this week for those? Okay. So all the scheduled labs are optional, but we don't have any TAs for this week lab. So this week, the lab part 1 is actually self-guided. The TAs will be available from Monday, next Monday. All right, guys, it seems like everybody's okay. All right. Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, guys, I can stay here for a few more minutes. Feel free to leave if you wish. But I do want to say, I do hope to see as many of you as possible in the Q&A. So don't be a stranger. Just drop by if you got questions, or just listen to the questions. All right. All right, guys. Thank you.
Sorry, Professor.
Go ahead, please.
So part 1 for lab 0 is due before Friday or by Friday.
You'll be next Friday. Yes, you'll be next Friday. You can see the exact time and dates on the lab instruction. Yes, it's next Friday. Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, guys. I will stay here for a few more, one more moments in case you want to ask me anything. But I got my office hour today, 3 p.m. Feel free to drop by. Okay. Okay, how will the programming test be structured in terms of the time and content coverage? So I would say this one, it really depends on the individual test. I would say wait for my guidance, like a preparation guide for each individual test. I'll give you precise detail. Yeah, I think yeah, you'll be given precise details for how to prepare for each test. I'll give that to you, yeah, beforehand. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming. And then all the best to your semester. And then if you are got any concerns, speak to me. You can reach out to me very easily. Okay. And for the class and object slides, yes, it's like a slide I try to cross-reference to, and then that's it's more like a reviewing. Yes, reviewing all the basic concept for OOP. Yes, you should really definitely take a look. Yeah. Okay, another question here. If you want to ask the question one-on-one, how can that work if the Q&A session is too packed? Usually the Q&A is, I'm going to go over the Google Doc question first. And then I'll give forward to any student who actually got individual question, and then I'll go over that. So I would say it's more like a moderated control Q&A session. So you don't need to worry about if that's too packed. Doesn't happen quite much in practice. But if you really want some private time with me, in that case, please just drop by my office hour. Okay, that's for Varen. Okay. Okay, nothing else happening in the chat. Okay, good. Yeah, see you in the office hour. All right, guys, thank you, and all the best.